Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords has always been a strong supporter of the right to bear arms. Back in 2008, she issued this statement supporting a Supreme Court ruling that overturned a ban on handguns in D.C. Quote, "As a gun owner, I am a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. This is a common-sense decision that reaffirms the constitutional right and Arizona's tradition of owning firearms. But now, some lawmakers are calling for stricter gun laws. Good idea?" We're joined right now by the host of Freedom Watch, Judge Andrew Napolitano. Judge, tragedy, but you can't be surprised by the push to focus on the guns in this incident.
No. I'm not surprised at all. In fact, we have to be wary of even more. You guys just talked about Congresswoman Slaughter wanting to use the FCC to regulate speech. Congressman Brady from Pennsylvania wants to enact legislation which would make it a crime to use symbols and words that could be perceived as threatening. Congresswoman McCarthy and Senator Lautenberg want to make it a crime to use the type of gun and the type of clip that this guy used. I mean, that is absurd. First of all, the Constitution is what it is, and our rights are there in good times and in bad. Secondly, you can't make a decision that would tamper with our rights in a time of tragedy when people are emotionally moved by what happened. Everyone in their right mind knows that this was a horrific, degenerate act. But it was done by a madman. It wasn't done by the Constitution.
Right. And let's take a look at what people are saying right now. A Gallup poll reveals this. Do you favor stricter gun laws? That's the question. The people in 1990 said 78% said yes, stricter gun laws. But in 2010, 44% agreed. Big change of heart there.
You're right, but remember, the Constitution protects our rights whether they're popular or not. These members of Congress, trying to capitalize on this tragedy, do not understand that. They think they can use a moment of tragedy to advance their progressive agenda. In the case of one, to restrict speech. In the case of the other, to restrict your right to defend yourself.
In the last few seconds is very interesting. One of the guys that ran out there and put his knee into the back of the gunman said, "I had a gun on me, and I was going to take it out for him and protect those people in the crowd."
It would have been, it might have saved lives had he done so, and it would have been perfectly lawful for him to have done so.
And two lawmakers, including Heath Shuler, say, I'm going to, when I'm in my hometown, in my district, I'm going to be bringing guns with me. But, Judge, today on Freedom Watch, who can we see?
I have one of those lawmakers, Jason Chaffetz, who's going to start carrying a gun again 24/7. And I have Sheriff Richard Mack, who's going to tell us about this sort of loopy sheriff who made matters worse on Saturday afternoons with his political rhetoric.
And, Judge, good. Congratulations.
Still responding, guardedly optimistic. The latest from surgeons tending to Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords today. To Trace Gallagher on the slow but steady progress. Hey, Trace.
Hey, Neil, it's slow but moving in the right direction. Doctors now say that Gabrielle Giffords is holding her own, that she is alert, she's responsive, and she is actually breathing on her own. And the only reason that she has a breathing tube is to protect her airways. And she's actually been grabbing at that breathing tube, trying to pull it out, which doctors say is a very good sign. They say the brain swelling, which is the biggest concern, has apparently stabilized. That also a very good sign. And they now believe that the shot hit her in the front of the head. They thought it was in the back of the head. Now they believe it went in the front and it came out the back. Doctors caution that she has a very long road to go, but the chief of the trauma center, Dr. Peter Reed, just gave us a very bold assessment, Neil. Listen.
I can't tell you whether she's going to be in a vegetative state. I hope that she's not, and I don't think that she will be in a vegetative state, but I know that she's not going to die.
You feel 100% chance that she will survive?
101.
101, considering the survival rates for this type of injury are abysmal. That indeed is a bold statement. Quickly, Neil, there are still 5 other victims still in the hospital. 3 of them are in serious condition. The other 2 are in good condition. All are expected to survive. Neil.
Thank you, Trace, very much. Meanwhile, from the woman who represented the Unabomber, this bombshell, don't even think of trying my client in Arizona. Jared Loeffner's court-appointed lawyer, Judy Clark, reportedly saying that there is no way her client can get a fair trial in Arizona. Our Judge Andrew Napolitano says Clark could just get her wish.
Really?
Well, the issue is, did any of the judges in Arizona know any of the victims? Answer, yes. They all worked for Chief Judge John Roll. He was the presiding federal judge over all federal judges in the entire state of Arizona. So they not only knew him, they worked for him. And the judicial system has a standard which says if you know one of the victims, if you have an interest in the outcome, if any of your knowledge of facts came from events outside the courtroom, you should stay off the case. Recall when Timothy McVeigh was being tried for blowing up the Oklahoma City federal building. Every federal judge in the state of Oklahoma recused herself and recused himself, and the case was sent to Denver, where McVeigh was tried, and we know the outcome. So look for this entire case to be sent outside the state of Arizona with prosecutors from another state, with witnesses having to go to the other state, and with judges and jurors from the other state sitting in judgment.
You know, this whole thing has seared our consciousness and crossed state boundaries easily.
Well,
can he get any less of a partisan type view, no matter where you are?
The issue in this case, in my view, will be what was his mental state at the time that he pulled the trigger. So this will be a battle among psychiatrists. And jurors will listen. Jurors from a neighboring state, let's say New Mexico, will listen, and a federal judge in, let's say, New Mexico, will tell the jurors, here's the law. Here's what the government has to prove. Did he know right from wrong? Did he think he was shooting a sack of potatoes, or did he realize he was about to take the life and was attempting to take the life of a human being? That's basically the question they're going to have to answer.
Can he be, very early on, Judge, just nuts?
Yes. In fact, the first inquiry of his sanity is he sane enough to participate in his own defense? If the answer is no, then there will be no trial. He will be institutionalized, not in a jail, but in a mental institution run by the federal government, in which they will attempt to bring him back to sanity. If the answer is yes, he is sane enough to participate in his own trial, then the issue is, was he sane at the time he pulled the trigger? The first insanity inquiry, sane enough to participate, is made by a judge after hearing a psychiatric testimony. The second inquiry, was he sane when he pulled the trigger, is made by a jury.
Wow. Judge Napolitano, thank you very much, my friend.